Charles, you were a member of John Gruden's Raiders, Mike McCarthy's Packers. How difficult is to establish a dynasty in NFL?
A dynasty?
Yeah.
I wish I knew what I wish I knew what it felt like.
Yeah,
to have a dynasty, but it's hard, man. I came in to the Raiders my rookie year, and my first 2 years, I think we were 8-8 both years. So very average team. I thought John Gruden did a good job of building our team and making it a contender, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes that time. Same way in Green Bay. Got there in 2006, and I think the first year we almost shorted the playoffs, and then the next year we got to the NFC Championship game, fell short. And then it took us a while to get back until we won it in 2010. So it's hard to do. This league it's hard to win, hard to maintain excellence. But it's a journey that we all pursue and try to get to the
Charles,
Super Bowl.
Heisman Trophy as a defensive back, the man behind top rule, Super Bowl champion. The transition to the cornerback to safety seems like you've been a part of the history of NFL and the football.
Yeah, I've been able to be a part of a lot of great moments. Played on some great teams. I feel like when your team is winning, a lot of those accolades come for you. So I've been able to do some outstanding things with the teams that I've played on. So this weekend you speak about history. I'm one of 10 guys that won a Heisman Trophy and made it to the Hall of Fame. So we'll be celebrating that this weekend, which will be airing on Fox, which is awesome. So yeah, man, it's just. I've worked hard, my entire life at trying to be the best, and with that hard work comes a lot of the things that I'm enjoying now.
Charles, I wanted to ask you, talk a little bit about this game here. As a former defensive back, one of the greatest of all time, when you see a guy like Pat Mahomes and you see how he's able to just kind of spread the field, and anybody on that team can kind of go off on any given game, as a cornerback, how would you prepare yourself if you were playing, if not, or how would you prepare the team, getting ready for, how would you prepare the Eagles for Pat Mahomes?
Well, first of all, if you're preparing for Pat Mahomes, you're trying to figure out how you can get to him.
When did you guys really know?
And then the second thing is how you can get him down, because he's not known to be a great runner, but he actually is a great runner. Getting outside the pocket, making plays with his feet. So you got to figure out a way that you can get to him. And then in the back end, for me, I would prepare the same way I prepared throughout my career, and that's understanding what they do. Certain personnel, down and distance, time of the game, where they're at on the field. You got to look at all those things, and those are the things that, as a coach, you try to get your team to understand, because when you're on the field, it happens quick. You got to go through a litany of things on the field in order to be comfortable to go out there and make the plays that you need to make. So you got to understand what those guys like to do, certain situations, certain formations, the way they line up. Our coach used to tell us all the time, it's not how they line up, it's how they wind up. So they'll do some motions and things like that, but once they finish that motion, it's either going to be 2x2, 3x1, or it's going to be empty. It's going to be one of them.
Right.
But what do they do out of empty? So once you figure those things out, what do they do out of 2x2? And that's how you got to prepare for this team.
How's the whiskey brand going?
Outstanding. Woodson whiskey is, we're here in Arizona now, so we'll have a big week and trying to showcase Woodson whiskey, and our next move is to try to get national distribution, so it's going well.
Just let me know where it is so I can go make sure I can take some back on the plane.
Will do. Cheers to that.
Hi Charles, buenas tardes, ¿cómo estás?
¿Cómo está?
Yo muy bien, gracias por preguntar. As a Super Bowl winner yourself, with all the distraction going on, obviously you guys prepare mentally to play the game. But outside of the game, what are 3 things that you should focus on in order to win that Super Bowl?
I think you should focus on really your time and your focus in terms of what you need to do as an individual. I think you need to have someone on your team, and I mean like your personal team, your family, that can kind of take care of the ticket request and all of those different things. And then I think you got to be able to juggle everything around you: the football, the family, kind of having some time to yourself throughout the week because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people here. You know, when you drive down here to the stadium, it's hard to get into the stadium, so it's kind of hard to keep your mind from turning because you want to focus on the game, but there's a lot of different things that are pulling you in different ways. So you got to be able, I think most importantly, is to be able to calm yourself, you know, and be able to visualize, you know, what it is that you need to do for the game.
What do you use to calm yourself?
Oh, man. A little Woodson whiskey or Intercept.
I knew that was coming. I was going to tell you, except you know, aside from Woodson.
Well, that's my pleasure. So that's what I do to calm myself. You should try it.
Awesome, will do. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Myra. Nice to meet
Absolutely.
you.
You were telling us years ago that you knew when Aaron was kind of the guy when he was running scout team. So now that they've got Jordan Love possibly in transition, do they know already?
Yeah, I would assume they know. He's been there quite a while. You know, you mentioned A-Rod and myself being there, coming there in 2006, and you know, being able to be on the other side of him, watch him develop and progress as a player. You know, watching his wheels turn as a player, standing behind Brett, kind of taking what he could from him, but then also playing against the one defense, playing against myself, Al Harris, Nick Collins, and those guys, and just watch him progressively get better. He was already talented. So I think that this team, I think the coaches, I think the players, if you were to, you know, ask a young Jair, right, who would take my place going against A-Rod, him going against Jordan Love, does he think he's ready? Does he have these certain attributes? Then I think you would find out a little more. I wish I was in there to know myself, but I got to imagine that everybody in that building knows whether or not they have the confidence in him, and I think that'll determine the decision going forward with how they try to handle Aaron's situation. Yeah, man.
What do you see in Jordan Love yourself?
You know, you haven't seen a whole lot. You know, you saw two snippets where you get, you know, you draw your opinion. That was the Kansas City game where he got a chance to start. I didn't feel like he was put in the best position as a quarterback to succeed that game. And then the game where they played, I forget where they got the big, it was a Philly he got in. Got in the game, and I felt like in that game, that's what you wanted to see because you felt like you saw his growth. You saw him, you know, get to the proper reads. You saw him going to the right players. Moved the ball down the field, and I thought he looked comfortable. You know, I thought he used his legs a little bit as well, you know, using those talents. So I think those two snippets, they contrast, but I think you saw the progression from one to the other. That's a good sign. Just haven't seen enough. So, like I was just asked earlier, you know, do I think he's ready? I think the people in the building know. I don't know. Maybe you know more than I do.
What about the defense? I mean, what do you see in Green Bay's defense?
The defense, man, you know, the problem that I have is that they're a good team, talented team, but it seems like it's always the run that always affects them. Right when they need to be stout in the run game, teams are able to run the ball on them. It just puts them behind the 8-ball. I think skill-wise, skill position is very good. You know, they got some young, talented guys. But, man, they got to be able to stop the run, stop people from running, you know, up the middle of the defense.
We have a very big seat at the table, and I have to credit that to all the women that came here. I've done this for 15 years.
Well, you know, if you watch last week's game, it didn't seem like it bothered him a whole lot. I mean, you could tell that he was, you know, gingerly moving on it at times. But you saw the end of the game where he made the play of the game, getting out of the pocket and running, so he could still do those things. But I think when a guy is hobbled that way, you know, what I thought that Cincinnati would do is push the pocket up the middle and not allow him to step up into the pocket. You see him step up a couple of times and throw off of the opposite leg, but make pretty significant throws that were for touchdowns. So the way I would see it is collapse the middle of the pocket, make him escape one way or the other, and then you got to have people that contain on the outside. So that would kind of be my take on it. You know, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Philly this week.
Charles,
sure.
I'm Jason with He Gets Us. So,
how you doing, man?
Yeah. Based in Michigan, so go.
All right, go blue. Go, absolutely.
State of Michigan.
Thank you.
Can you just talk a little bit about just faith and seeing, especially players this year go through really significant injuries, know that they got a long road ahead with rehab. How does faith play in, especially in football, when you're thinking about the risks that guys are taking and what it means to come back, especially when you got a long road to come back and play?
Did you say fate or faith?
Yeah, your faith. How does faith play into dealing with the risk and then being able to come back and overcome injury like that?
You know, I just think, man, when you sustain, you know, a significant injury and you're hobbled, what you really have to do is you got to kind of go back to your training. You know what I mean? When you're healthy, you run out there, you take a lot of different chances because you feel good. You know, you have, you know, everything working for you. And, you know, you're like a well-oiled machine. But then when you get hurt, you know, there's certain things, there's certain limitations that you have. So you got to kind of dial back a little bit and go to your training. You know, whatever, you know, walk of life you're in, whatever your job is, when things go a little wrong, you got to kind of reset a little bit and not do all of the things that you used to do, but do the things, the fundamental things. And then in terms of the injury itself, sometimes, man, it's only time that can heal it. You know, when you're going through the season and you're trying to get to this point, get to the Super Bowl, you're going to play through a lot of different things, man, that are going to test you mentally. But the one thing you always, you know, it gives you a little bit of comfort is knowing that you got a bunch of guys out there that are really going through the same thing that you're going through. It might not be to the degree that you're going through it, but they're going through it to some degree. So I think those are the things that you look at when you have those types of injuries. But if you can get to this game and win it, guess what? It's all worth it.